All right, so we're looking at your chart here, and you're a 5-1 emotional generator on the cross of healing. Um, Now, what human design tells you, what it's really the crux of human design is really what's you and what's consistent within you and what is other people. What are the windows that you have to take in the other? It's really a map of the aura. And what you'll find is that certain parts of your aura are fixed and you're putting them out and you're having that impact on other people. And other parts of your aura are malleable and you're taking in others and you're receptive of others. So I'm looking at your chart here and you can see you have the defined sacral center connected to the solar plexus here through the 59-6 channel of intimacy. And everything else is open. So you have a lot of openness. And so what we're going to talk about in this kind of introductory reading, we're going to first talk about your strategy and authority as a generator, and then we're going to go through the not self hierarchy, which is these open centers. Because again, the crux of human design is this belief that each of us has a way that we're designed to energetically move through the world. And the way that the generator is designed is to operate through response, through waiting to respond. And in your case, with that defined solar plexus right here, it's about emotional clarity. So for you, it's about waiting to respond and then waiting for that emotional clarity. There's no truth in the now for the emotional being. There's no truth in the now. Because you're on an emotional wave. And in fact, you have a tribal wave that ratchets up and ratchets up until it reaches a tipping point, a straw that broke the camel's back. And this tipping point will bring you tremendous clarity, moments of clarity, but it can also push you very low in your wave, or it can be a breakthrough that makes you high in your wave. Ultimately, you're only going to achieve that clarity when you've been through one full cycle of the wave. So you meet someone, you think they're really cool, then later you're disappointed in them. Well, maybe it's because you jumped to the conclusion before waiting for that emotional clarity to emerge. So my advice for those that have emotional definition, get used to saying, I'll get back to you on that. I need to sleep on it. I need a few days. I'll let you know next week. Stuff like that. It's about waiting for that clarity. People take time to come into focus. Now, also because of the way your solar plexus is defined, you're going to get clarity through touch. Touch is very important. It could be a handshake. Someone could touch you on the shoulder. And also, you're going to be very sensitive to touch and not want to be touched at certain times. But touch is very important with that whole, not only that channel, there's others that have to do with touch as well, like the 1949 here. But the 59-6 gets a certain amount of emotional clarity through touch. You can be in a state of confusion and not knowing, and then someone shakes your hand or gives you a hug or something, and suddenly you get that clarity. So be on the lookout for that. But ultimately, as a generator, as an emotional generator, you're here to wait to respond. And it's so hard to do that because everything in this world, all this conditioning, tries to get us to act, to go out there, to initiate, to make it happen. And so much of the New Age in particular is about, actualizing your life through making a mental decision for something to happen and going out there and getting it. And that's not what human design is about. Human design is about surrendering to the form principle, surrendering to the body. You surrender to letting the body guide the form. The body is here to make decisions. The mind is here to do what I'm doing right now, to communicate, to express, not to make decisions. So I'm going to go through the not self hierarchy because I think that's the best introduction to human design. It's something you can really watch, you can notice, you can look at. It's something that's very practical, and you can notice that this is going to be what pulls you away from waiting right? Because it can be so hard to wait. It can be so hard to wait because there's this feeling, this fear of missing out, this feeling like if I don't act now, I'm going to miss my opportunity. I'm going to miss my chance. I better buy that car now because if I wait, it's not going to be there. I better say yes to the job because they'll hire someone else if I don't. I better move into this place now because someone else wants it, you know. But that's not how you're designed. You're not designed to make decisions in the moment. There is no truth in the now for an emotional being. So what is the not self? The not self is how the mind makes decisions according to the vulnerabilities of the open centers. These open centers are quite vulnerable. And there's a hierarchy. And I'm going to start with the outermost from the hierarchy. We're going to work our way in. So you have the undefined throat right there. Undefined throat wants attention. It wants attention, and it can't get attention because it's often ignored. So it wants to initiate. This undefined throat, it's like you walk up to order a coffee and you're invisible. They don't even notice you. And so much of you wants to say, excuse me, I'd like to order a coffee. Right? But you can't because you're a generator, and that's like fingernails on a chalkboard. The generator needs to wait to respond. It's about entering into the flow. So what you'll notice with that undefined throat, you'll notice a throat pressure that builds up, and it's the pressure to initiate. The pressure to initiate conversation, the pressure to initiate action. And there's this feeling, if only I can get their attention, then I won't be frustrated. This idea that it'll relieve the frustration, but it's not true. It just breeds resentment, it breeds resistance, and it creates more frustration. So what I want you to notice here is that the next time you're being ignored, just flow with it. You know, don't be the first to speak. Just walk up and stand there at the counter waiting to order your coffee or tea or, you know, and they're ignoring you, and let a minute pass. Just stand there. Don't say anything. Don't interrupt. Oh, the undefined throat loves to interrupt. Loves to interrupt. Don't interrupt. Someone's talking to you, just let them talk. Just look at them, watch them, notice them talk. You know, you don't have to initiate. Next, the undefined root. That undefined root is always in a hurry, trying to get free of, you know, all of its tasks, all of its things to do. If I can get all this stuff done that I have to get done, then I'll be free from frustration. I just got to get it done. So these are people that get things done way too fast. It's like the opposite of a procrastinator. It's someone who can't handle any pressure, so the second they have any pressure to do something, they try to get it done right away. You know, they're giving advice like, make sure you get everything done so you can relax. No. Ask yourself, am I always in a hurry to get things done? You know, it's learning to recognize these, is noticing them. It's like a game of whack-a-mole, and you have 7 little centers that the moles are going to jump out of, and you're going to notice them. These people are ignoring me. I can't edge myself into this conversation. I want to say something. I'm waiting for my turn to speak, but they never give me any room to speak. That's the undefined throat. Thwack. You just notice that whack-a-mole, right? You just see it, and you kind of mentally go, okay, I don't have to do anything. I can just wait and respond. I don't have to do it, right? Or then you look at the undefined root, and you notice that's the part of you that's going, God, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I have all these tasks to do. I have all this stuff I have to get done. As soon as I get it done, I'll be free from the pressure. Then I can finally relax. No, that's not for you. You're not supposed to be in a hurry. You're not designed to handle high-stress situations, to be in a hurry. Okay, let me look at the ajna right here, this upside-down triangle, the third eye. The ajna always wants to be certain. It's trying to be sure. It hates uncertainty. Am I going on the trip or not? Is this happening or not? Am I this or is it that? You know, it wants to have the decision made so it can just have the decision so it can know. And so ask yourself, am I trying to be certain? And again, these kind of thread together with this not self theme of the generator trying to avoid frustration. So it threads together and you go, look, I'm trying to get their attention, but they're ignoring me. But I'm in a hurry. I have to get it done because I'm in a hurry trying to figure out what this actually is so I can know. Because as long as I'm uncertain, I can't move on with my life. So I'm in a hurry to figure out what it is, you know. And then the undefined head, just above the ajna here. This undefined head is constantly thinking about other people's problems, other people's issues. It'll think about anything and everything. Someone asks you, do you know how to, how do I cook lentils? And you go, well, actually, I think what you do is you have to soak them and then you put them in this. And, it's willing to try to solve everyone else's problems. So I have a mantra for you with this undefined head, undefined ajna. My friend Lars came up with this. He said, if you have undefined head, undefined ajna, your mantra is don't know, don't care. Because the undefined head and the undefined ajna will know and will try to care about everything. It'll try to figure everything out. It'll spend all this time, this mental pressure, thinking about other people's problems, thinking about all this stuff, trying to figure it out, trying to know, trying to be certain. So much mental activity. It's exhausting. So next we have the undefined spleen. That undefined spleen will just hold on to anything that gives it security, that makes it feel good. Holding on to people, holding on to old relationships, holding on to jobs, holding on to patterns, holding on to anything that brings you purpose with gate 28 there. Holding on to anything that helps you with ambition. With that gate 32. Holding on to responsibility. It's about, am I holding on to things that aren't good for me? I'm going to hold on to this thing because it helps me get attention from others. And if I can get their attention, then we can figure it out and I can be sure about it and I can get all my tasks done and then I can finally relax and then I won't be frustrated. That's the belief, right? You can see how these chain together, the not-self chains. Now, I'm going from the outside in. I'm going to the weakest to the strongest. So the strongest one we've looked at so far is the spleen. That holding on to things that aren't good for you is so much stronger than trying to get people's attention, right? But still, again, it's like that game of whack-a-mole. You're looking at these different centers and you're going, okay, am I in a hurry? Wow, I'm noticing when I'm being pressured. I notice when I feel this intense pressure to hurry up. That's that undefined root. Wow, I noticed somebody just asked me a question. I'm thinking so much about it, trying to come up with the answer. I'm looking on Google. I'm checking my cell phone. I'm trying to answer the question. Like, when did that movie come out? Something that totally doesn't matter to me, that I shouldn't even care about. But I'm trying to figure out, was that song released in 1974 or 1975? Thinking about all the stuff that doesn't matter. Trying to be certain, trying to figure it out, trying to get their attention. In this, the spleen, holding on to what's not good for me. Now we go deeper. Now your second strongest undefined center is the G center. This is searching. Never found the right thing. Always the searcher. Maybe there's something else out there. A lot of undefined G center people come into human design because they're real searchers. They're looking for it. They're looking for love. Maybe I'm not with the right person. I better go find them. They're not sure about their career. Maybe the grass is greener over there. They're not sure where they live. Maybe I feel more at home somewhere else. I have a little bit of an undefined G center rule for people who have this center undefined. It's right people, right place. In the right place, you meet the right people, and the right people take you to the right place. And so you don't have to find it, and you don't have to find them. You just have to be discerning. And this is the hard part. The discernment. Because the mind can get so wrapped up, it can get so hooked on people. Take your undefined spleen. You can get hooked on somebody who makes you feel good. They give you a sense of security. They make you feel nice to be around them. You get hooked on that. But they're not taking you to the right place. They take you to a sports bar and the waiter spills a pitcher of beer on you or whatever. That's the wrong place for you. You feel uncomfortable there. You don't feel good there. Well, that means it's the wrong person for you, but it's so hard to let go of that person with that undefined spleen holding on so tightly, saying, if only I don't let go, then I won't be frustrated. And then your undefined G center, I have to go out and find the person and find the place, and it's all up to me. No, if you're looking for a place to live, the right people in your life will find that place for you. And if they're not finding the right place for you, then they're not the right people. See, the thing is, with the undefined G center, you're very open to the frequency of the environment you're in. You feel that, and you know if you're comfortable there or not. And so it's about trusting that. trusting that comfort level, trusting that feeling of this is the right place for me, and then asking yourself, who took me there? Who brought me to the right place? Who guided me there? Because that's going to be the right person for you. And in that place, you're going to meet the right people. It's like, think about someone in your life who's important. Where did you meet them? Did you meet them at a place where you were terribly uncomfortable and you just felt terrible there? Well, then that's not the right person for you. You're going to meet the right person at the right place. But you don't have to go out looking for it. The grass is not greener. You don't go, it's like realizing that you're searching, looking. That's not who you are. That's the not self. You don't have to do it. It comes to you. And then finally, at the very heart of the not self hierarchy, we have the undefined ego. What can I say about the undefined ego? 70% of humanity has an undefined ego. The undefined ego is the heart of the not self for everyone, no pun intended, because it's also called the heart center. Oh, I almost don't want to talk about it. It's such a chore talking about the undefined ego. The undefined ego is where so much pain and suffering comes from. It's the center of self-esteem. It's the center of willpower. It's where we feel our value or not, and it's where we feel threatened or not. And that undefined ego can feel so threatened and so inferior. And this is the real foundation. This right here, this undefined ego, this is the foundation of the entire not self decision-making process. So if there's one thesis of human design, it is this. It is that you have a sacral center that's defined. That makes you a generator. That means you're here to respond. You have the solar plexus defined. That makes you an emotional being. That means you have to wait until you have emotional clarity to respond correctly to make the right decisions. Everything else is pulling you away from that, pulling you into impulsive decisions, trying to get you to make decisions, right? Everything else, you're offered a job, and instead of, I better just wait till I get clarity about it, instead of waiting for that mechanical process of clarity to emerge out of the solar plexus, you have all these things. You have the G center saying that maybe this is it. And you have the spleen saying, this will bring me security. And you have the root saying, I'd better hurry up and make my decision fast. And you have the throat saying, oh, this will make them notice me. And you have the ajna going, then I can finally be certain. And you have the head saying, I better think about this a lot, and so on. But the ego, the G center is the second strongest for you. That's very powerful. The ego is the absolute core of the not self for you. It's the absolute strongest undefined center for you. So let's just look at the ego a little bit and look at how that operates. So the ego is always trying to prove. It's trying to prove its value because it's deeply threatened. It doesn't know its value. And so there's this feeling, as long as I can prove that I'm valuable, then I won't be frustrated. Then I will finally have my satisfaction. I'll finally have what I want. If I can just prove it. I just have to prove my value. I have to prove it to myself. But how do I prove my value? Well, the ego is the center of willpower. So typically it's about proving you have the willpower. It's about making promises. Guess what? You're not here to make promises. You'd be far healthier if you never had to make another promise ever again. And you don't. Because when you answer according to your strategy and authority, people trust that. I've had generators say to me, how will someone ever trust me if I don't make a promise? They'll trust you because you're living as yourself. You're living in response. You walk into the room and you don't say anything. And they say, hey, you having a good day? And you go, mm-hmm. You're living as yourself. They'll trust you that you're having a good day. They'll trust that you're living as yourself. But if you walk into that room and you initiate and go, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? They're not going to trust that because they're not even going to notice you. They're not even going to respond to you. They're just going to ignore you because it's like fingernails on a chalkboard when a generator does that. When a generator walks into a place and initiates, it's fingernails on a chalkboard because it's interrupting the natural flow because the generator aura is here to respond. It's here to respond in the flow. When something else happens that you respond to. The second you walk into a room, hey, how's it going? Or you walk up to someone at a party, nice to meet you. This is my name, and it's so great to... You're not being yourself. That's not who you are. You're here to respond. But that undefined ego, oh my word, I can't even begin to say, okay, I guess I'll just start here. So gate 21. Gate 21 right here. This is all about trying to prove that you have the stamina. If I can prove to them that I have the stamina to do this, then I'll be free from frustration. I have to show that I have the stamina, that I have the self-control, that I have the restraint. This is it's like the gate of making New Year's resolutions. You're not supposed to make New Year's resolutions. You're not supposed to promise things to yourself, because that's promising the allocation of willpower that you don't have, and that just hurts your self-esteem. It puts so much pressure on the heart, the physical heart. Why do you think heart failure is such a huge problem for people in the westernized world? Well, it's diet and things like that, but it's also because 70% of people have undefined ego. They have an undefined heart center, and they're putting so much physical pressure on the heart. People do die of heartbreak. People do die of low self-esteem, And what they're doing is they're making promises. I promise myself I'll quit smoking. That's doing more harm than the smoking, because you're beating yourself up about it, trying to exert all that willpower and make all these promises you can't fulfill. So that gate 21 is all about promising that you'll exert the willpower, that you'll have the stamina to see it through, that you'll have the self-control. And it ends up being controlling of others too, by the way. Then we come to gate 51. Now you don't have it activated, so it's felt as a personal defect. In this case, because you have 25 activated there and you don't have 51, it feels like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? These are, people beat themselves up about what they don't have. And gate 51 is about having the guts to really jump into the unknown, the courage to do it. And it's this feeling of, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have the courage? If only I had the courage to jump into the unknown, then I'd be free of frustration. But I'm so terrified, It's not true. It's not true. You get satisfaction through following your strategy and authority. When you wait for emotional clarity before making a decision, it guides you on the right trajectory of life, and you get the satisfying experience from that. You get what's truly yours, what you truly deserve. You get to fulfill your purpose. But there's nothing wrong with you, right? That undefined ego can feel so defective. I'm missing something. I don't have the guts. Now we go to the next one. You have gate 26 here, double activated, both consciously and unconsciously. Gate 26 in the undefined ego. This is, I've got to convince them. If I can convince them, this is like the smarmy salesman. This is the person who has nerve. And nerve is different from guts. Nerve is like Don Draper and Mad Men standing up and selling everyone on something, and wow, look at the nerve on that person. That person really has some nerve. They were just able to sell everyone and convince everyone, and it's this kind of smarmy, charming ego gate. It's the only ego gate people really like. And by the way, with gate 26, you're great at telling people what they want to hear. If somebody asks you something, your first reaction is going to be to tell them what they want to hear. And then, so tell them the second thing if you want to tell them the truth. The first thing you think of is always going to be a way to sugarcoat it. I know, because I have gate 26 in an undefined ego, and I'm always sugarcoating everything. I'm, even as I'm giving you this not self breakdown, I'm thinking of ways to spin it to say, but these are windows into how you experience other people, and you can become wise in these areas. And, it's true, but at the same time, sometimes we just have to cool our jets a little bit with that gate 26, because it's the smarmy kind of ego person who's, again, if I can sell you on it, if I can convince you of it, then I'll be free of frustration. It's not true. And then finally, we have gate 40. And again, just like gate 51 here, you'll experience this as a personal defect, and it's not. You'll think you don't have the capacity. You'll think there's something wrong with you. Why don't I have the capacity to handle this? Why don't I have the capacity that other people have? It's not true. It's just the undefined ego. So what I really want you to look at here, we're looking at these, I want you to see that the outermost shell of the not-self is that undefined throat. That undefined throat is trying to get attention from others. That's what others see. They see, here's someone who's trying to get my attention. But they don't see that deep underneath that, you have that undefined ego that feels so insecure, that feels, low self-esteem, and doesn't really know if you actually have value or not, if you actually deserve or not. Doesn't know any of that, is so uncertain and so threatened. and is constantly trying to prove and prove and prove, and is so touchy and just waiting to flare up and get its feelings hurt and try to prove to the other, and just notice it. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. Notice when you find yourself trying to prove. I was talking about the undefined ego during one of our human design catalyst groups, and someone said, well, I have undefined ego, and I don't try to prove things, and I don't get my feelings hurt easily. I'm not touchy. And I said, oh, okay, well, I mean, maybe you've done a lot of deconditioning, because, a big part of human design is that when I'm describing these centers, I'm really describing the not self. So the more you follow your strategy and authority, the less impactful some of these things are. And she starts going, well, yeah, that must be it, because none of what you said resonates with me at all. I never try to convince anyone of anything, and I certainly don't try to prove things, and I'm not threatened, and I'm not touchy. And I just said, okay. What do you do in that situation? Just whatever, right? But that's what this is about, right? There's this not self, so the first year of human design, I know human design can be so overwhelming. There's 64 gates, there's 384 lines, there's all the profiles, there's the substructure. It goes on and on and on and on. It's a beautiful, beautiful, incredible system for the mind. It's a smorgasbord, a feast for the mind. But ultimately, what human design is about is giving decision-making power back to the body, giving decision-making power back to your solar plexus here, to your process of gaining emotional clarity. It's slowing down and it's stopping making decisions in the moment, and it's realizing there's no truth in the now. Truth emerges for you as things slowly come into focus over time, and you just have to wait for that emotional clarity to arise, right? And you learn to wait for that emotional clarity. You learn to savor the process and not to rush it. And part of that, the first year of human design, is learning to recognize, in your case, each of these 7 themes and when they appear. And it can seem overwhelming, but you'll start to notice them. You'll notice someone will say something that'll cause an ego flare up, and you'll say, well, that's not true, and you'll flare up about it. You'll notice that. Or you'll notice that G center start to go, I wonder if it is better for me there. I wonder if the grass is greener. I'd better go out and search and find it, because I have to find it. No, you don't. That undefined G center, you don't have to search, right? Or that undefined spleen, I better hold on. I can't let go. If I let go of them, I'm going to be all alone. I'm going to be sad. I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to be frustrated. It's not true. It's not true. You have to let go. Just let go. Let go of the old relationship. Let go of the old job. Let go of whatever it is, right? Or that undefined root. I'm in such a hurry to get things done. And you can chain them together. I'm in a hurry to prove to you how good I am at searching for things. Or I'm going to prove to you how much I won't let go. Or I'm going to search to find ways to know for certain how to get people's attention. You can play with these however you want. But again, I'll just do it from the top here. The head, thinking about things that don't matter. The ajna, trying to be certain, pretending to be certain. The throat, trying to get attention. The G center, searching, looking for love, looking for direction. The ego, trying to prove and improve. The spleen, holding on to things that aren't good for you. And the root, always in a hurry. And so you can play with these keynotes, and you can see how I'm going to think really hard about things that don't matter until I'm so positive about them, even though it doesn't affect me in any way at all. I'm so certain, and I'm going to prove to you how certain I am by never letting go. You can see how these all chain together. And this is how the not self works, right? Whereas what you really have to guide you, what is really correct for you, is that solar plexus emotional clarity. Now, the other things I'm going to touch on, and really this is kind of extra, because I would say if there's something to really focus on for the first year, it is the not self. It's the not self. But I'm going to touch on profile and motivation. So your profile is the 5-1. It's the heretic investigator. Now, I could talk about the 5-1 for an hour and 2 hours. I mean, you can go deep into profile, all the different roles, the different ways it plays out. But what it really is that the 5-1, so each of the profiles is a costume. so to speak, or a role that you play, or a number of roles that you play for different people. And it's really about making it yours. And when you follow your strategy and authority, you really get to make that role yours. But you'll still recognize those characteristics as a generic, regardless. It's really just how it plays out. So the fifth line is a projection line. It's a line that people project expectations on you. And the moment that they see you, they project either a positive or a negative expectation on you. Oftentimes it's positive, and they start to build up all these expectations. And they build and build and build, and they expect you to do all this stuff, and they expect you to be a certain way. They expect you to give them practical help. Ultimately, because you're on gate 46, they expect you to be successful. I mean, people probably think you're a millionaire, or they think that you're wildly successful, or they have all sorts of imagination that runs wild about all the success you've achieved, and look how successful you are. And they're constantly expecting you to be successful. And they're expecting you to act a certain way, and they're expecting you to kind of carry and embody this transpersonal empathy, this larger-than-life character. And when you don't live up to that, they burn you at the stake. This is the heretic. It's the line of the heretic. But when you do live up to that, you have the ability to truly change people's lives and to provide practical provisions in times of crisis. So it's a really powerful thing. The fifth line is a really beautiful line. I don't like to spin it in a negative way. So many fifth lines complain about all the gossip. People love to gossip about them, or about all the intrigues, or the expectations being put on them, but that's not what it's about. If I could give you one piece of advice as a fifth line, it's be prepared to deliver something practical. As long as you help someone in a practical way, they're going to be happy with you. You're going to be off the hook. You deliver something practical, you're good. Because the thing is, the fifth line gets access to all sorts of people and places that others don't get access to. The fifth line gets preferential treatment. It builds trust immediately, especially with your 59-6. I didn't even talk about, this channel is the aura cutter that just cuts through people's defenses like butter. Someone's mad at you and they say, hey, who do you think you are? And you go, well, it doesn't have to be this way. Let's talk about it. And immediately you've disarmed them. You're so good at cutting through their defenses, at cutting through their aura, at building trust, at gaining intimacy, at gaining connection to them. It's a powerful thing. And then combine that with a fifth line. It's so powerful. You're able to gain trust from people instantly, but then they feel betrayed if you don't provide something practical. So the only cure for all the expectations people place on you is to provide the practical. Now, being a 5-1 means you have a first line unconscious. That's the investigator. It's very important for you to research, to study, to learn, to investigate, to really have a solid foundation in an area of expertise. And that will also help you in providing the practical. Now, I guess I can touch on your left angle cross of healing. You're a real dynamo. You have it's a very powerful configuration. Now, the fifth line of gate 46 is not considered the strongest fifth line. In fact, it's the only non-exalted fifth line. The fourth line of gate 46 is the exalted line there. So in that sense, I guess it's kind of a weak placement, as well as the fifth line of gate 25 being sickly. There's a theme of being sickly, like sickly kids, or just kind of going through a lot of sickness, especially with that undefined spleen. Doesn't mean you're not healthy. It just means that you're not always going to feel great. You might struggle with illness and so on. But you get to learn so much about what healing truly means. This isn't about healing others. This is a theme of God helps those who help themselves. It's a theme of taking care of yourself. And you really learn the four hexagrams, 46, 25, 52, and 58. You learn what's needed. You learn that a certain pacing is needed, that healing is about integrity, that healing is about stillness and patience, that healing is about joy. You ultimately have to have joy. You have to take joy in improving your lot, because if you don't take joy in that, it's not going to work. And this is the love of the body. Your son is born into the love of the body, the personality sun for you. The sun is right by the solstice, or I'm not the solstice, the fall equinox. Pardon me. It's just a couple days after the equinox, and it's in gate 46. And it's really about the love of the body. So things like going to the spa, stretching. Oftentimes, these people need to take a lot of showers because they absorb so much energy from other people, and other people want that energy and crave that energy. Gate 46 is one of the tantric channels, so it's about transforming sacral energy into basically spiritual energy. And so people kind of pick up on that, and so you can be in high demand. And so there's a need to not overexpose yourself to others, and to take that time to care for your body, and so on. And then with that gate of stillness, part of the theme of stillness can be kind of, like waiting to act, or waiting to really act, and then pinpointing when that action finally arises. Now, this isn't going to happen unless you're following strategy and authority, because you have that undefined root, which is going to be all about, I have to act now, I have to act now. But as you live more as yourself, and making these decisions out of a place of emotional clarity, then you get to fulfill your purpose more. So finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about is motivation. I don't usually go into all these. I mean, most people, for an introductory reading, I would literally just talk about strategy and authority. Your strategy is wait to respond. You have emotional authority. You wait for that clarity to arise. And I would talk about being a generator. I usually tell people to sleep alone. I talk about conditioning, how important it is to sleep alone. And then I'll go into the not self, and I'll talk about the not self centers. That's pretty much it for an introductory reading. I spend most of the time on the not self, because the not self is really what we're living. We're living out. That's where the dilemmas are. These 7 open centers, where it's like a game of whack-a-mole, where suddenly the ego flares up and feels threatened and feels like it has to prove, or suddenly the spleen is holding on tightly and not wanting to let go, or the G center is feeling lost and feeling like it doesn't have a home and searching for direction. And that's usually what I focus on. But in your case, I thought, I could touch on profile, because that's just kind of give you a little sampling of what the 5-1 Heretic Investigator profile is about. I touched on the Cross of Healing, and now I want to give you one last tool, which is motivation. And your motivation, your true motivation, is hope. And when you have a motivation of hope, what it's really about is knowing what's going to change and what isn't, and being in touch with what's going to change and what's not going to change. And I guess, just a moment, I'm going to punch in your information here. Okay. 5, 9. Okay. Sorry. I'm just punching in so I can tell you just a little bit more information. Okay, so what is motivation? Motivation is something that you can notice. It gives you something mentally to notice, which is a really nice thing to have, because so much of human design is about the body and about getting in touch with your solar plexus authority. But it's nice for the mind to have something to notice too. And in particular, because you have undefined G center, I'm going to kind of talk about it a little bit. Because undefined G center, it's so important that you have the right people in your life. And motivation is something that you can notice. The right people are going to align you to your correct motivation. So your correct motivation is hope. The right people are going to align you to hope. Hope means having the cognition to know what's going to change and what's not going to change. So when someone says, well, what do you think is going to happen? That puts you into hope. Or they say, it's not your responsibility, just wait and see. That puts you into hope. Because then you can start to think, is this going to change or is it not going to change? And you start to kind of get in touch with your natural ability to know what's going to change and what isn't going to change. But instead, you've most likely lived your entire life in transference, which is guilt. When you're living out of your transference of guilt, it's a constant feeling of, I have to act now. I have to fix this. It's my responsibility. Nothing will change unless I take action to make it change. So it's spending a whole life basically meddling and changing. And so the wrong people for you are going to pull you into your guilt motivation. They're going to say, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix it? They're going to ask you these questions that pull you into, I have to take action. And that's not correct for you. You're designed to sit by the river and to wait for someone else to fix it. And if someone else isn't going to fix it, to know it's not going to be fixed and to give up on it and move on to something else, because you're not here to fix things. You're not here to change things. You're here to know what's changing and what isn't. And you can say, well, I sure hope that changes and I sure hope this doesn't change. And the right people are going to pull you into that hope. So the reason I'm giving you this little tool, which I usually wouldn't even talk about with somebody until they've been in human design for more than a year, is because when you have undefined G center, I think it's really important to be around the right people. And this is something that you can notice. Who's pulling you to your correct motivation? Who is pulling you into hope versus who is trying to get you to take personal responsibility for things? So anyone who says, what are you going to do to fix it? That person is not correct for you. But if they say, what do you think is going to happen? Then that's the right person for you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.